At Arby's, we have the meat.
A 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to another episode of A Very Odd Caster, and may the 4th be with you. Now, I admit it, I'm really not much of a Star Wars fan. Seems like everybody surrounding me is, but I'm just not into it. By the way, isn't Jar Jar Binks the quarterback for the Jaguars? Just a thought. Anyhow, guess who just walked in? Professor James Earl Jonas himself. He's the professor of philosophy at Mount Hot Airy College down the road. And uncle to Nick, Kevin, and Joe, the Jonas Brothers. Hey, Professor Jonas, long time no see.
Hello, Caster. How are you?
Living the dream. Hey, what are you drinking?
I'll have my usual, a mint julep.
Would you settle for a natural light?
That'll work. Thank you. Cheers.
So do you want to see a menu?
Yes. Do you have any specials this month?
Actually, we do. We have a May the 4th platter. Everything comes in 4s.
Oh, 4s? What do you mean?
That's right. 4 mozzarella sticks, 4 wings, 4 sliders, and 4 golf balls.
Oh?
The 4 golf balls are in case you hit 3 onto the other fairway.
Well, I do not have time for such silly games. You see, I need to catch up on the literature.
And what literature are you reading these days?
Yes, you see, there was a philosophy symposium at the university last month, and I'm way behind on catching up on some of the literature.
Well, a couple months ago we did a Mount Rushmore of rock and roll on the show. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of philosophers?
Interesting question, Caster. I would say my Mount Rushmore of philosophers would be Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and then, of course, Karl Marx. I would put Socrates there due to his glad-fly philosophy. We could certainly use a few more of those these days. And Plato, of course, is a student of Socrates, and I'm particularly fond of his theories of innatism and idealism. And Aristotle, of course, was a student of Plato. And his most fascinating work was that on syllogism. The theory that all men are idiots, and Joe Biden and Donald Trump are men, therefore Joe Biden and Donald Trump are idiots. What was that?
Oops, I forgot to tell you. No politics allowed here.
Well, why didn't you warn me? Anyhow, Karl Marx would be my 4th entry on the Mount Rushmore.
Of course.
And Marx I would select due to his Communist Manifesto, which is better known as the standard student orientation guide on any college campus.
So how's school going this year, Professor? Are the students trying to get you canceled for giving hard assignments?
Now, Castor. Only a small percentage of students are like that. But you know what they say? The squeaky wheel always gets the grease.
Well, the squeaky wheel might get the grease, but the grease doesn't do much good if someone slashes the tires. So have you seen those rascally pop star nephews of yours lately?
No, I haven't talked to them in a long time. They're much too important.
Really? They seem like pretty down-to-earth young dudes.
Well, they live in Los Angeles. Is anyone down to earth in Los Angeles?
Sure. Okay, so the May the 4th platter sounds good to you? I'll go put that in. You wait right here.
Thank you, Castor. And while you're attending to that, I'm going to go back here and try to pick up this chick. Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man. No time to talk.
Well, that was Professor James Earl Jonas, who is quite the player. So indeed, it is May the 4th, and it's kind of a big deal for those Star Wars freaks out there. But like I said, I never got into it. I just never did. Going back to the very original Star Wars, I was like 14. Actually, this is another one of those stupid things from my childhood. Yeah, so I was about 14, and there was all this buildup because this movie was coming out, this new amazing sci-fi movie called Star Wars. And a good buddy of mine was dying to see it. Oh, as soon as it comes out, we got to see it. And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. I always like going to the movies, But, we went to see the movie, and I'm not going to lie, I fell asleep. The original Star Wars, right? I fell asleep. I don't remember if I, was, under the weather or what. But I think I was kind of bored. And I don't know what it is. I just have never connected, not just to Star Wars, but a lot of sci-fi stuff. Movies need that suspension of disbelief. And a lot of people, the Star Wars fans, or the Star Trek fans, or any sci-fi fans, they just hook, line, and sinker. I don't know. I really don't know why I don't buy into it that much, or I don't, connect with it. I know they say that audiences will allow one leap of faith per movie. And if you try to sneak in more than that, you start to lose them, right? And maybe that's it. I don't know. But I think it's just has to do with more of a broader thing. I don't think I'm that into sci-fi. I guess in that genre, I have trouble taking that leap of faith. Maybe it's because real life space exploration is so amazing, and that in my long lifetime, we have seen a lot. We've accomplished so much in the terms of space exploration. I mean, we actually landed and walked on the moon, right? I mean, we landed on the moon, for God's sake. Well, at least that's what the film evidence shows. There are those out there who don't believe that we actually landed on the moon. The moon walk deniers, the moon landing deniers, such as the great Whoopi Goldberg, G-R-A-T-E, Whoopi Goldberg. She was ranting and raving that the whole thing was fake. think she pointed out that the flag that was planted on the moon was rippling like it was windy there. And she pointed out that, the flag couldn't be rippling in the wind because there's no air on the moon. Perhaps that hot air from the view travels pretty far. We don't know, right? I think Whoopi was thinking about the flag on the MTV breaks, maybe that's what she was thinking of. That's called CG effects, Whoopi. What's more realistic? The moon landing or some of the shit they talk about on The View? Another actor, Richard Belzer, the late former stand-up comic, and then more recently the star on Law and Order. He went off on the moon landing being fake too. I think he was doing it in the years after 9/11, maybe during the Iraq War. He was using it as a opportunity to go after Bush, and so he was saying the moon landing was fake. Richard is not here any longer. He just passed recently. I think his ashes were scattered in one of the moon's craters. I have no proof of that. None. It's misinformation. I'm spreading misinformation on social media. Steph Curry, winner of 4 NBA titles, and as much as I hate to admit it, probably the best damn outside shooter in history. Apparently he said he was joking when he said he thought the whole walking on the moon thing was fake. But what is not fake is the fact that NBA refs let Curry and other players get away with walking all game long. Yeah. So it's May the 4th, but you know what that means? That means that just around the corner, like tomorrow, is May the 5th. Yes, indeed, we are celebrating Cinco de Mayo here on this edition of A Very Odd Caster. In fact, we're celebrating it quite literally, because here in front of me, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, Cinco de Mayo. Guess I'll have to find the receipt to that. Take it back to the store. But yes, might as well celebrate with a nice Corona. I wonder if when COVID hit, if Corona's business took a hit. You know? You know, the FCC wouldn't like me drinking a beer. But since we aren't bound by FCC rules, I can say, fuck you, FCC. There you go. Yeah, so anyhow, right before COVID, I was in New York for Cinco de Mayo. Can't remember why. But it was pouring rain there. And I wanted to go out and just, have a couple of Coronas. Oh, it's Corona Light. Oh, damn. But at least it's not a Bud Light. Because, I think the makers of Corona might want to have a Charo impersonator on their label. Charlie, who's dressed up as Charo. Wouldn't that be pretty good? It's the gift that keeps on giving. Anyhow, I was in New York and it's pouring rain. I mean, and I'm like, I gotta go have some Mexican food. It's Cinco de Mayo, for God's sake. Mios Dios. So, I took the train down. I looked up and there's this restaurant, can't remember what it was called, but it was pouring rain. And I was like, got off the train and I was dashing through the flooded streets, puddles, my shoes were getting soaked. I was soaked, I got into the restaurant and I'm just like, they're looking at me like, holy shit. I was just like, dude, but it was great food, and they had music there, live music. None other than Ricky Martin singing Living La Vida Loca. Ricky Martin's not Mexican. Anyhow, this year I plan to spend Cinco de Mayo in northern Michigan. They have Taco Bell there, Oh my God. James Earl Jonas is just leaving with that lady he went to hit on. Man, that dude has some swag. Anyway. So last time on A Very Odd Caster, we started talking about weddings and sort of how they've evolved over time. And so I wanted to continue that discussion. But of course, as you know, first I have to change back into that shirt. Now, is it just me, or are weddings becoming more and more over the top? Are they becoming more narcissistic than in the past? Now, I don't know. I really don't know. I've never been like a wedding planner or a wedding observer. Only the really weird weddings are the ones that stick out in my mind. I've been to dozens of them, but there's only a handful that I recall that really stuck out in my mind. But it just seems to me these days that the whole build up to these weddings and everything have gotten a lot more narcissistic. All these major photo shoots in advance of the wedding. And I'm just like, I don't know. I need feedback on this because I could be totally wrong. It may just be a byproduct of, the visualization of society. We're an Instagram society, right? So we got to do something to get on Instagram. I don't know. It just seems a little over the top. It also strikes me that the grooms seem to be sort of going along with it, but probably not overly enthusiastic, but they love their lady and, onward. And that sort of raises a broader question, because I think maybe this is really like weddings have always been. They're really about the bride, right? At the end of the day, it's kind of like the fairy tale. It's the prince and the princess. They're dressed that way, for God's sake. And it couldn't be the guy's idea. Hey, let's dress up like Cinderella and Prince Charming. Was Prince Charming and Cinderella? I don't think so. He was the dude that worked in a shoe store, right? Hey man, put out your foot. Let me see what size you are. So, I mean, guys, aren't we just like extras in our own weddings? Really? You know, sometimes it just looks like the grooms, they're like stunt doubles, right? Okay, groom, now, can you smile and look happy for the next 4 hours plus? The guy's like, I don't know, I'm kind of tired. Okay, get the stunt double in here. Get the stunt double. You know, guy shows up. I'm happy. I don't know, man. But we get all this stuff in the mail. Save the date. Okay? Save the date. Save it. Where should I save it? Is there any room in the fridge there? And there's these pictures of the bride-to-be and the groom-to-be, and the bride-to-be is just, beautiful. I'm so happy. And the guys are like, I'm going to take a shit. I'm just riffing, man. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm maybe totally off. Maybe it was always accepted that, yes, the wedding day is more for the bride than for the groom, you know. My own experience, yes, somebody was sorry enough to marry me. But I definitely felt like I was sort of an extra in my own movie, you know. I'm like, after a while, I'm just like tired. I gotta sit down. Oh, there's a chair. A groom over here. More pictures. Yeah, good times. I don't know. At any rate, it's kind of the next 50 years that really counts, right? If you don't get that right, who gives a shit how good your wedding is? Preach it, Brother Castor.
Happy Mother's Day.
Welcome to another edition of A Very Odd Caster. Remember, this coming weekend is Mother's Day, so please take care of Mom. Please. So this week, we're going to dip into some of the very odd news stories out there across the globe. And this one takes us to Helsinki, Finland. This first story is pretty disturbing. A walrus that had become a global celebrity last year after it was seen frolicking and basking in an Oslo fjord before it was euthanized by the authorities has been honored with a bronze sculpture in Norway. So at first glance, I got this story confused with another story several months ago about Thor, the masturbating walrus, who kind of popped up at different places, I think in England and then somewhere else. And he kind of would jump up on the shore and start playing with himself and then jump back in the water and swim away. And much to the amusement of the onlookers, because, you know, there's really nothing quite like walrus porn. But anyhow, this is not Thor. This is another walrus. And this really pisses me off. Because apparently what happened is the people were getting too close to the walrus and taking pictures and whatnot, selfies. And because of that, the idiot authorities captured the walrus and euthanized it. I mean, that pisses me off. I mean, I am he, you are he, you are me, and we are all together. Now that does really piss me off, though. There's another story. This is here in the States, out in Boise, Idaho. Famous for its potatoes, I might add. But this little cute headline is, why did 2,500 sheep cross the road? Because the grass was greener on the other side. You should write jokes for late night TV. Wouldn't be any worse, let me tell you. But apparently a huge herd of sheep, apparently 2,500 of them, crossed a road blocking traffic and everything. So that's pretty interesting. And on the other side of the road awaited a very lonely farmer who had a big smile on his face. Solo. Back overseas to Berlin. The headline says, German court rules that naked landlord doesn't justify lower rent. So a German court said that a landlord sunbathing naked in the courtyard of his building wasn't a reason for the tenants to reduce their rental payments. The case involved a building in an upmarket residential district of Frankfurt, which, incidentally, was the nickname the tenants had for their landlord. When they go low, we go lower. Taiwan had some interesting news. China welcomes Yaya the panda home after 20 years abroad. So Yaya the giant panda landed Thursday in Shanghai after departing from the Memphis Zoo in Tennessee, where she spent the past 20 years on loan to the zoo. So all this time, the folks in Shanghai were sitting there, waiting for their Yaya. Okay. Elsewhere overseas, the champagne of beers leaves French producers frothing. The guardians of champagne will let no one take the name of the bubbly beverage in vain, not even a U.S. beer giant. For years, Miller High Life has used the champagne of beers slogan. This week, that appropriation became impossible to swallow. At the request of the trade body defending the interests of houses and growers of the northeastern French sparkling wine, Belgian customs crushed more than 2,000 cans of Miller High Life, advertised as the champagne of beers. Apparently, thousands were protesting in the streets, chanting, "We want Bud Light, we want Bud Light." That's not what happened. Remaining overseas, by the way, it's good to know that the U.S. isn't the only fucked up country. Nudists in Austria are up in arms about plans for a cable car that would pass over a popular beach on the northern edge of Vienna, where clothing is optional. The country's Austria press agency on Friday quoted nudist Barbara Hoschgel saying she feared for her privacy if cable car users with cell phone cameras are allowed to swoop across the area. That's right. A nudist fears for her privacy. Okay. This one happened in Charlotte, North Carolina. A boy, 13-year-old boy, had to be freed from a claw machine after he climbed inside hoping to score a prize, according to official at a North Carolina amusement park. So this is like right out of Toy Story, right? The boy wanted a Buzz Lightyear or something, and he climbs into the claw machine, and next thing you know, I don't know, but I'm not surprised that doesn't happen more often, right? Although this kid's 13, he should know better. I could see seven-year-old getting overly excited and trying to do that, but a 13-year-old, quite a future that kid's got. This next story features none other than the governor himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Fed up by an enormous pothole in his Los Angeles neighborhood, Arnold Schwarzenegger picked up a shovel and filled it himself. The actor and former California governor tweeted a video Tuesday of him and a helper using packaged concrete to repair a pothole in the Brentwood area. There is one problem, unfortunately. The giant pothole that Arnold said he filled was actually a trench that had been dug for utility work, according to the city. So Arnold, you fucked up. Ugh. Oh, this next story gives me the heebie-jeebies. Woo! A pilot in South Africa made a hasty emergency landing after discovering a highly venomous cobra hiding under his seat. Can you freaking imagine that? Snakes on a plane, right? Rudolf Erasmus had 4 passengers on board the light aircraft when he felt something cold slide across his lower back. He glanced down to see the head of a fairly large Cape cobra receding back under the seat. Whew. It was as if my brain didn't know what was going on, he told the Associated Press. After taking a moment to compose himself, he informed his passengers of the slippery stowaway. There was a moment of stunned silence, he said. Everyone stayed cool, especially the pilot. Could you imagine if he freaked out? Ah! The plane's like... Erasmus called air traffic control for permission to make an emergency landing in the town of Welkom in central South Africa. Welcome to Welkom. Bring us your cobras. He still had to fly for another 10 to 15 minutes and land the plane with the snake curled up by his feet. Freaking cobra. I kept looking down to see where it was. It was happy under the seat, Erasmus said. I don't have a big fear of snakes, but I normally don't go near them. And I presume you don't go flying with them either. Whew. Damn. This is crazy. So, everybody got off the plane safely, and the passengers were so freaked out. They said, I think we'll drive there, okay? Man. Shoosh. Wow. So what would you do? I know that I wouldn't wait to go to the bathroom. Greetings and welcome to another episode of A Very Odd Caster. We lost one of the NFL greats a few days ago, the great Jim Brown of the Cleveland Browns. Of course, if you've seen any of the old films of Jim Brown running the football, you could easily conclude that he was the greatest running back in the history of the NFL. With all due apologies to the other greats, such as Bernie Sanders. That's right, kids. Bernie Sanders, before he was a 95-year-old independent senator that's never authored a meaningful piece of legislation in his life, he was a great running back in the NFL. Shit. I'm a little sleepy, all right? Barry Sanders is who I was referring to, the great Detroit Lions running back. I think the first time I saw a celebrity out in public was in New York City, the very first time I went to New York. Of course, that's the place to see people. I've seen many people there. But me and my buds were walking down the street, like, I don't know if it was 42nd Street, but it was somewhere in that area. And we're going from crosswalk to crosswalk, and we were a bit out of our skulls, if you know what I mean. And I kind of became aware of this really tall guy walking along next to us, and he looked wasted. He was like, and is walking like this, and he was dressed all like this, all in black. And he looked like he was, I don't know, 6'6" or something like that. And I started being aware of him, like, who's this drunk, you know? And then we come up to the next crosswalk, and he steps up right next to me. I look up at him, I'm like, it's freaking Johnny Cash. Would have been 1983. So Johnny was still in his heavy usage period. But then again, so was I.
I'd like to sing a song that my daddy sung to me when I was a boy. And before that, his daddy sung it to him too. And someday, when I reproduce, I'm gonna sing it to my boy as well. This song's called Hitler, the Little Train Conductor. And it goes something like this. Well, I heard that whistle blowing as the train pulled round the bend. That big old freighter kept chugging along, and I heard that whistle blow again. The train pulled in the station, and it came to a screeching halt. And then the little conductor climbed on out and said, "Jawohl, you look like Hitler. You look like Hitler." And he said, "Eat-eyed with the eye, eat-eyed with the eye, even giving lip-blood with the eye, with the eye, with the eye." I-E. And I said, pardon me. Well, I admit I had second thoughts about riding on that train. No one likes to travel with a man who's gone completely insane, headed south of Nashville on that big old Dixie line. And I was trying to figure out what was going on inside that conductor's mind. He looked like Hitler. He looked like Hitler. And he said, eat I with the I, eat I with the I, even leave it, leave left, third, right, look at that, with the I. I said, pardon me. Well, I closed my eyes in horror and I prayed that ride would end. I longed to hear the whistle as the train pulled in the station again. Next time I'll take a Greyhound or a Continental jet. That look on the little conductor's face is one I won't forget. He looked like Hitler. He looked like Hitler. And he said, eat I with the I, eat I with the I, Colonel Schultz, Olga Corbett, eat I with the I. I said, pardon me. Hitler, the little train conductor.
I don't think I was anywhere near what Johnny Cash was as far as a partier. Anyhow, so I saw Johnny Cash, and one time in DC, I'm walking down this dark street late at night, and I got approached by none other than Tony Fauci. He said, "Psst, hey kid, you want to buy a vaccine?" No, that isn't what happened. Wouldn't shock me though. But it makes traveling a little more interesting when you bump into these people that you see, right? Never seen the wizard from The Wizard of Oz though. He's always like hanging out behind the curtain. So, on that note, let's dance!
Black Friday girl. Try it all on.
We hadn't heard from the dancing panda in a while, so. Okay. I just want to say thank you to the men and women who have served as we look forward to this great Memorial Day weekend and the unofficial kickoff to summer. So have a great weekend and see you around the corner.